Welcome to the deep dive where we try to cut through the noise of really complex
And
research.
just deliver the insights that actually matter.
Exactly, the actionable stuff. Today, we are diving deep into a revolution that's happening, well, pretty quietly in offices everywhere. I'm talking about AI agents.
Right. And these are not just the chatbots you're used to. We're talking about true AI agents.
What's the difference?
They're sophisticated. They're goal-directed. They don't just write text. They use tools. They execute multi-step processes all on their own. They're basically the digital coworkers of tomorrow.
And that, of course, creates a huge tension. On one hand, you have this promise of an incredible productivity boost.
Finally getting rid of all that boring, repetitive work.
But on the other hand, there are these very real, very valid concerns about jobs, about losing control, and frankly, whether we can even trust these things.
Precisely. And that's why we need to stop just speculating. We need to look at the actual data.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah, we're focusing on a huge, really critical audit from Stanford researchers. They use a new database called Workbank to get to the bottom of it all.
And this research had a very clear goal, right? To answer two big questions.
Two crucial questions. First, what do workers actually want AI to do? What is their real appetite for automation?
And second,
What is the tech actually capable of doing right now? Is it even feasible?
so this data set, the Workbank database, it's pretty massive.
Oh, it's unprecedented. They collected preferences from 1,500 domain workers, and then they got capability assessments from 52 leading AI experts.
And that covers a huge range of jobs.
Over 800 tasks across 104 different U.S. occupations. And it's important to note, this isn't about factory robots. The audit is focused specifically on complex, computer-based tasks that an agent could handle.
And the researchers introduced a new way of looking at this, moving beyond just automate or not.
Right, they created something called the Human Agency Scale, or HAS.
Has. Okay.
It's a 5-level scale, H1 to H5, and it's designed to measure the preferred level of human involvement.
So it's not a binary choice.
Exactly. It reframes the entire discussion around collaboration. H1 is full automation. The agent does everything.
And H5?
H5 is the complete opposite. It's essential human involvement. The person is the decision maker every step of the way. This scale is really the key to understanding augmentation, not just replacement.
Okay, so let's start with the workers. When they're given the option to hand off a task, what do? Are they digging their heels in?
You'd think so, based on the headlines, but they're surprisingly receptive.
Really?
Yeah, the audit found that for nearly half of all tasks, we're talking 46% workers, actually had a positive attitude toward automating it.
Wow, that's a huge number. That's a massive endorsement.
It is.
So what's the motivation? Is it just about getting more downtime?
Not at all. It's about optimization. When the researchers asked why they wanted a task automated, the #1 reason, by a long shot, was freeing up time for high-value work.
Okay, that makes sense.
Almost 70% of workers chose that. Other reasons were that the task was repetitive and tedious, or that it was just stressful and mentally draining.
So that really changes the narrative, doesn't it? It's not about AI as a job stealer.
No.
It's AI as a burnout preventer, a tool to help you focus.
Exactly. It's supportive infrastructure. And if you look at the specific tasks they want to automate most, it's all the administrative headaches.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so tax preparers, scheduling client appointments, that scored a perfect 5.00 on the desire scale.
A perfect score.
Perfect score. Or payroll clerks issuing pay adjustments, also extremely high. These are the things that pull skilled people away from what they're actually paid to do.
So if the demand from workers is so incredibly high for this kind of thing, where are all the tools? There seems to be a huge disconnect here.
That is the first critical mismatch the audit uncovered. They compared this worker desire data with real-world usage on platforms like Claude.ai from early 2025. The top 10 occupations with the highest automation desire. Your tax preparers, your payroll clerks, they account for a tiny, tiny fraction of current usage.
That's just a massive market inefficiency. You have workers practically begging for tools to solve these problems. But the investment, the actual usage, it's all happening somewhere else.
It suggests the AI industry is, well, maybe focusing on what's technically flashy instead of what's actually needed. There's this huge underserved market for just getting rid of paperwork.
All right, so let's flip this around. Let's talk about the resistance. If nearly half of tasks are a green light, what about the other half? What are people holding on to?
It all comes down to trust and the need for a human to give that final stamp of approval.
I could see that.
When workers had a negative view, The number one concern for 45% of them was a lack of trust in the AI's accuracy or its reliability. They just don't believe it can do the job right.
Which makes total sense. You don't want to hand over a critical report if you have to spend twice as long just checking the AI's work.
Right. After trust, the next biggest thing was fear of job replacement, but trust was overwhelmingly the main hurdle. The third was, the absence of human qualities, creative control.
I'm guessing the creative control concern is pretty concentrated in certain fields.
Oh, absolutely. The arts, designs, and media sector just jumps off the page. Only about 17% of tasks in that whole domain got a positive automation rating.
So what do they want from AI?
They see it as a tool, maybe for file management, but not as a creative partner. One worker said it so plainly in an interview, they just said, I don't want it to be used for content creation. No content creation.
So high stakes, high creativity work. Trust is low, which I guess brings us back to that middle ground, not full automation, but collaboration.
Exactly. And that's where the human agency scale becomes so powerful. When they used it to see what people preferred, the result was crystal clear. The future is partnership.
And that middle level was H3, right?
H3. It was the dominant choice for almost half of all occupations.
So let's define that. What does an H3 partnership actually feel like for a worker?
H3 is a true equal partnership. The official definition is AI agent and human form equal partnership, outperforming either alone.
A symbiosis.
It is. The human provides the strategic judgment, the context, the deep expertise. The AI provides the scale, the speed, the raw processing power.
But there's friction even here. You mentioned an agency gap. This sounds like where things could get tricky for companies trying to roll this out.
The agency gap might be the single most important strategic finding in this entire audit.
Okay.
For nearly half of all tasks, 47.5% workers wanted more human agency, more control than the AI experts thought was technologically necessary.
Wait, hang on. So the experts are saying the AI is ready, it can handle 80% of this task, but the worker is saying, no, I need to stay involved in at least 50% of it. Why?
It comes back to that trust issue, but it's also about job security and just the perceived quality of the final product. If a company just listens to the tech experts and deploys an agent,
they're going to get pushback.
Serious pushback. Resistance, underutilization. It's a classic human resources problem that looks like a technology problem on the surface.
So let's look at the two ends of the spectrum. Which roles did the experts think could be fully automated? The H1s.
Experts were most comfortable with full autonomy for jobs that are, structured, repeatable, and digital.
Things like
certain tasks for computer programmers, proofreaders, even travel agents. They're predictable, they're rule-based, and you can easily check the outcome.
And on the flip side, what about the workers? Which jobs were they fighting to keep 100% human? The H5s.
The big standout there was editors. They were the only occupation where workers as a group wanted H5 essential human involvement.
Why them specifically?
They talked about the need for manual review, for ensuring accuracy, for nuanced formatting. For them, the stakes of getting a tiny detail wrong are just too high to trust an agent to do it alone.
So if you're listening to this and wondering if your job is more H5, what are the key ingredients? What defines that essential human touch?
For the workers, the big one was interpersonal communication. Anytime a task required empathy, nuance, building a relationship, that was seen as fundamentally human.
And what did the AI experts think?
They agreed on interpersonal skills, but they added a second critical piece, domain expertise. So H5 tasks are really this mix of deep, specialized knowledge and those essential human soft skills.
Okay, so let's zoom out. The researchers took all this data worker desire and expert capability, and they created this 4-zone map. This feels like a roadmap for where the smart money should be going.
It absolutely is. It's a strategic map for any leader. You have 4 zones.
Go ahead.
First, the automation green light zone. High worker desire, high tech capability. These are your easy wins.
Deploy them now.
Exactly. They relieve stress, they boost productivity today.
Yeah.
Second, the R&D opportunity zone. High desire, but the tech isn't quite there yet.
So that's the future, where the research needs to focus.
That's the promised land. Third, the automation red light zone. Low desire, but high capability.
So the tech is ready, but the people aren't.
Precisely. You have to be really careful there. And finally, the low priority zone. Low desire, low capability. Don't worry about those yet.
Okay, let's talk brass tacks. Money. Is the current venture capital investment actually flowing into those green light and R&D zones where workers need the help most?
And this is the second, even bigger mismatch. The report used Y Combinator companies as a proxy for VC trends, and the finding is, well, it's alarming.
How so?
Over 40%, 41% to be exact, of the company task mappings are in the low priority and red light zones.
Wait, 40% of investment is going toward tasks that workers either actively don't want automated or just don't care about.
Yes, it's a massive misallocation of capital if your goal is to meet expressed worker needs.
So what's driving it?
It seems like investment is heavily focused on tasks related to, say, internal software development or business analysis, maybe because those are easier to benchmark or sell to a CTO, but it leaves these huge opportunities in administrative support completely unaddressed.
There is a little bit of good news, though. Academic research papers are better aligned.
They are. The research is much more focused on that critical R&D opportunity zone, which is great. But even there, it's still pretty confined to computer science and engineering problems. We need more focus on real-world industry applications.
So let's bring this home to the human worker. If AI agents start absorbing all these tasks, what does that do to the value of our own skills?
That's the big question. The research mapped the highest agency tasks, the H4s and H5s, against skill requirements and wages. And the takeaway is that AI integration is fundamentally shifting which human skills have the highest economic value.
Okay, so what skills are losing their premium? What are the high-wage skills that are becoming less important in this new environment?
It's the skills that are all about information processing, because the AI is taking that over.
For example.
Specifically, things like analyzing data or information and updating and using relevant knowledge. If the AI can reliably process the data and synthesize the key takeaways, the human's value is no longer in doing that initial processing step.
This is the moment, then. This is where human value gets redefined. So what skills are becoming more important? The ones linked to those tasks that need a human in the driver's seat.
We see a huge spike in the value of human-centric skills.
Like what?
At the top of the list are interpersonal skills, establishing and maintaining interpersonal relationships, communicating with people outside the organization, training and teaching others.
So people skills.
People skills and organizational skills, things like organizing, planning, and prioritizing work, and monitoring and controlling resources.
So the human role is shifting from being the processor of information to being the coordinator, the strategist, the emotional expert.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
Our value is moving from calculation to communication and strategic judgment. The future highly valued human contribution is not processing the data, but guiding the AI and managing the people. That's what defines an H4 or H5 task.
So if we were to synthesize this whole deep dive for you, the single biggest takeaway is that understanding this balance automation versus augmentation measured by that human agency scale is just vital.
It's vital for companies trying to deploy AI responsibly, and it's vital for your own career.
Workers are ready for AI, but they want it to respect their agency. They want it to augment their low-value work so they can focus on high-value human connections.
And this research, it really gives you an early signal. It's fresh data showing exactly where the highest return on investment in your own skills is going to be. It's shifting away from information mastery and toward relational and managerial mastery.
Which leaves us with a final, I think, pretty provocative question for you to think about. If core skills like analyzing data are declining in relative value and interpersonal skills are on the rise, how should our education systems, our career planning, how should all of that evolve right now to prepare for a workplace where the most valued human contribution is coordination and empathy, not just calculation? That is the real challenge AI agents present to us.